Welcome to this video message about human sacrifice in relation to Jesus. Now, Jesus was human. You might think I don't need to point that out, but it is necessary to point that out. And actually, in the early years, the humanness of Jesus was questioned because he was such an extraordinary figure. But Jesus often referred to himself as the Son of Man. So he is human, and not only a person like us, but he is the representative human. He's like one of us. And so, just like if you have a football team, when they win, you say, "We won," even though you weren't on the field at all, because you identify with that tribe. In the same way, Jesus is one of us. And in a peculiar way, Barabbas is also one of us. If you're familiar with the story that at Jesus' trial, someone was going to be set free, there was Jesus, the Son of Man, the Son of the Father. And there was also Barabbas, whose name means Son of the Father, Bar Abba, the Son of the Father. So he was also like every man. He was like me. And so he went free. He's the one who should have been crucified, but he went free, and instead Jesus got crucified. And that's our story. Jesus is our substitute, if we continue with the sporting theme. And so we go free. We shouldn't have gone free like Barabbas because Jesus died. Now, with regard to Jesus' death, we have to ask, was this child abuse? Did his father abuse him? And the answer is no, because Jesus himself had the authority to choose to lay his life down or to not lay his life down. And he spoke about that in John's Gospel. He said, "I have the authority. No one takes my life from me," he says. "I have the authority to lay it down, and I have the authority to take it up again." So it was his choice. It wasn't something that was enforced on him, as it were, by way of abuse. And we can also ask, was Jesus' death a suicide? And again, the answer is no, it was not a suicide. A suicide is where someone takes their life to end their misery. And in Jesus' case, Jesus gave his life to end the misery of others. Now, just a word about suicide, since I've mentioned the word. Suicide is not a way to end misery. When a person is suicidal and in that trance state where they think everyone would be better off if I ended it, that is not true. And if you ever feel like that, talk to the people around you. Don't say my family would be better off. Ask them, would they be better off? They will tell you, no, we would not. And if you have a friend who is suicidal and thinking like this, talk to your friend. Don't be afraid to talk to your friend about that issue, because the perspective of other people helps to puncture that lie that somehow someone would be better off. No one's better off as a result of a family member or a friend suiciding. Now, just going back to Jesus and this thing that he gave his life to end the misery of others, that he wasn't just absorbed with himself at the time of his death. Even when Jesus was on the cross, it's extraordinary the care that he demonstrated for the people around. So here he is suffering great physical, mental, emotional and spiritual anguish. And yet we see him caring for others. So there's his mother, and he says, "Oh, you don't have me to take care of you now, but here's John. John might have been Jesus' cousin, we're not sure." And he says, he'll take care of you now. So here he was caring for other people towards whom he had a responsibility. He also cared for people who just happened to be in that situation, like the thief on the cross beside him, who first of all slagged Jesus and then said, "Jesus, remember me." And Jesus said, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." So Jesus is comforting other people in the midst of his own sorrow, which is an extraordinary example of love in action. So the people who were there with him, caring for them, and the people who put him on the cross and crucified him, he said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." So Jesus' care for others was extraordinary. He was love on legs. He was love in human form, love made visible, the Word made flesh, God in human form, God who is love in human form. So this was Jesus' pattern. This was Jesus' act of love in dying on the cross, which was like the topping on his life of love, where he cared for others and did good to all who came to him. And of course, Jesus also rose from the dead. And that's an extraordinary thing in human terms. But when you get to know Jesus, you might think, well, it would have been a bigger miracle if he had stayed dead, because he is the author of life. And for him to stay dead would have maybe been an impossibility. But he did rise, and while it's an unusual event, like the Geiger-Morrison experiment, where the unusual behavior of a small number of alpha particles tells us something about the nucleus, in the resurrection of Jesus, which does not happen normally with human death, we learn there is something special here. And so Jesus rose from the dead, and we have good historical attestation to that from hundreds of witnesses. And he's not only risen from the dead back to where he was before, just to a regular level of human life, but he's been promoted to the highest place of all on account of what he has done, so that through his self-giving, he has achieved even a greater degree of glory in heaven than what was his by right before his incarnation, before he came on earth. Now, there are huge personal challenges for us in the example of Jesus. And the big challenge for us is to, like him, to lay down our lives in love. No one can show greater love than this, to lay down their lives for their friends. And when I say lay down one's life, I don't mean lay down your life in death. I mean lay down your life in life. And that's what the apostles of Jesus in the New Testament call us to do. They say, in light of what Jesus has done, in light of God's mercy, present your body as a living sacrifice. Jesus presented his body as a sacrifice all the way to death, but we're asked to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. You sacrifice, but you go on living. So rather than choosing self-indulgence and comfort, you choose to care for others. You also care for yourself. Don't become some kind of, person with a messiah complex that thinks you have to suffer to make everyone else's life good. But where it's necessary, you will suffer inconvenience, you will exercise patience, you will take trouble to demonstrate care and love to others in words and deeds. And so that's the calling for us. And Jesus is the example for us. And what an example he is, what a model he is. And if you're ever blessed to be a husband, in particular, the New Testament says, this is what a husband is like. Follow the example of Jesus, who laid down his life for his people. You do the same as a husband. And Jesus is not only our model, but he's also our inspiration. And I use that word advisedly. He inspires us. He puts his spirit in us. When we look to him in faith, we lift up our hands to receive the gift of forgiveness because he died on the cross for our wrongdoing. But we also receive his spirit into us so that we can naturally live like he did and express love like he did. So it becomes a joy to us, and if you like, something that's natural to us, that we behave like him, serving others with love, being outward focused, and not just being indulgent or using others for our own purposes. So in this sense, we all get an opportunity to participate in what we might call human sacrifice. We sacrifice our lives by choosing to express love to others. And the basis for that is Jesus, who has not only modeled it for us, but provided the way for us to do that by cleansing us from our own wrongdoing. And then, as we open our hearts to him, he puts his spirit inside us so that we can represent him and be his hands and feet on the earth. So we are his body. We who believe in him and serve him in this way, we are his body, continuing the work that he did of going around, doing good to everyone and demonstrating the love of God. So thank you for joining us on this journey, and I hope this challenge speaks to you.